Okay, so I had to charge the batteries for the camera, and while I was away charging, I did find a smoke unit. So we got this here. Actually, it'll go like that. And I was gonna have to do this off camera anyway, but I opened up the hole. It's pretty intricate, but I just drilled this out with a small drill bit. I don't know, 1/8 inch, something like that, something small. And then I cut it out with a razor blade too, very carefully. And then I put a file in there and file it out. So I got my file, and I get it real gently, both sides, and clean it up, get it as square as I can. Now, something I noticed was I'm gonna need an MTH funnel that will cover this hole. In the units that come with the diesels that come with a smoke unit pre-installed, they'll have a black piece up in here. It'll be screwed into the shell. Typically this plastic's usually built up a little bit more as well to screw into that. Now in this case, where I don't have that build up, I'm gonna have to come up with something, I don't know, hot glue, combination of that. And I use this a lot, the plastic weld. This works really well for bonding plastics together. It melts them together and gives you a really nice strong bond. So I'll probably do something combination of that, the plastic weld, and some hot glue around it. I did go onto MTH's website for their parts, and I found something that will sort of work. Now I have another shell over here I can show you. Now this is another project down the road. It's another Great Northern 3033. This one will be, I don't know when I'm doing this one, but I got this one on my bench right now. So to show you what I need is something like this. There's that little black piece on there, and that allows the smoke unit, the brass funnel on the smoke unit itself, to actually fit in there and form a nice seal when it's all mounted together, so that the smoke doesn't come out, between the shell and the smoke unit, and it comes out of the hole where it's supposed to, on the stack of the shell. So I found something not exactly like this one, but pretty darn close. I'll make it work. Probably won't have that for a little while. So in the meantime, what I'm thinking I'll do is we're gonna mock this up as close as possible. I'm pretty certain this is the smoke unit I'm going to use. I have a few of these, and they do come in different standoff lengths, so you can get them, they could be shorter, or I think this is probably the tallest one that they have. They may have something a little bit taller. This is like a 30 millimeter standoff. A 25, sorry, this is a 25 millimeter standoff. I think they go up to like a 30, but I'm going to anticipate using this one. And once I put that black piece in here, the funnel piece, there's going to be it's going to be elevated a little bit more. It's probably like a 1/4 inch difference is what I'll be seeing once that's installed. So in my past experience with doing these, typically these posts here are going to be flush with the shell, or close to it. Actually, they're going to stick up a little bit as this is upside down, because the frame has a little bit of a bump to it here. So the shell rests on these two edges out here, and the smoke unit is going to get mounted down in here. What I've done in the past when I've been waiting on parts like this is do my best to really get that to line up. It's going to be somewhere about where I put the blue tape, and I'll take some measurements off camera to really make sure I get that in the right spot, and I'll put some marks down in here. And typically what I'll do is make these holes just a little bit bigger, almost slot it, so that way, if I have to move it a little bit forward or back, once that part comes in, I can make that adjustment. Usually I like to wait till I have everything, but in this case I've done this a few times, so I'm pretty confident I'm not going to mess it up at least too bad. So I'm just going to keep going with it, and because we need to figure out where we're going to put the smoke unit before we can mount the board. All right, and we'll get the board mounting bracket out of the box. All right, so here's your mounting bracket, and I've got a lot of old boards around here, so I'm just going to grab something and we'll use that to kind of see where we're going to place everything. So I think this is one of my smoked boards. I used to buy these when I found them, and found them available, and try to get them working again. I've gotten a few working, but I think this one was, I think I'd given up on this one. So anyway, that's how the board will mount in the cradle or the bracket there, whatever you want to call it. It just snaps in, and it can go either way. So just snap that back in. Put the smoke unit back roughly where we think it's going to go. And now the board is going to do something like this. Alright, and I'm already seeing a problem here, because the smoke unit has to be all the way back here to fit the board in the chassis. So this would be one of the mounting holes. I could probably reuse that one there. So it's going to be a little tricky. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this yet. I have some ideas, but we may actually put this board in first, and then I'm going to figure out the smokestack later, the smoke unit later, because as it stands right now, that is not going to come close to where I want it. Let's see. Alright, that's all the way out there. So the opening in the shell is going to be right around here. MTH does make different plastic funnels with different extensions and lengths and things like that, but kind of limited what they have available in stock right now. And the one that I did find actually mounts. It's a little rectangle that goes right over that opening there. So anyway, all right. Well, that one's probably not going to work, but we're going to keep going with this. So change the plans here. We're going to put the board in. We're going to mount the board, because what we're looking at here is we need to maintain clearance issues between the board and the motor anyway. So, you know, regardless of where the smoke unit ideally should be, it's not going to work, because we would need to have this board pushed all the way up against the motor in order to even get close to where we need to be with the smoke unit. So again, I'm going to figure that out later. In the meantime, we're going to put the board right here. I think that'll work. Now, in some of the other builds that I've done, this right here would be an issue. Let me get that out of the way. I'll bring this forward. The magnet is usually an issue because it sticks up too high and it would hit the board. So you have to elevate the controller on standoffs of some sort. The kit does come with some little plastic standoffs, so we're probably going to use these right here, and that'll help elevate it enough to give it a little bit of clearance over the magnet of the speaker, and then also for clearance for a wire, for the speaker wire coming out, so we're not clamped down tight on top of that. So sometimes you luck out here. Again, we got a factory hole right there. So far the factory speaker hole is lined up nicely with this. We've got a starting point over here where we're gonna screw this in right there. So we're gonna have to drill a hole on the back side here, and the smoke unit, I'm gonna have to figure that out. But I have some ideas. What I've done in the past on a GP20, I think it was a Burlington Northern, I actually had to make a brass extension, which I was able to get it from one point to another and then up. So I'd rather buy the parts from MTH if I could, if they were available. But like I said, checked their website. I didn't see anything available. The only one that I did find is the one that goes directly over the brass piece. And again, that's not going to work for this, but I'll have them. Like I said, I have quite a few builds in line after this one, and you know, they're a couple dollars a piece, so it's not too bad. It's not too bad to have them in stock and ready to go in case I need them on the next one. All right, so let's get to this. We're going to put a screw in there and then figure out where we need to get it on the back side. Typically, I'll eyeball this. You know, we know where this mounting screw needs to go in here, and you know, then we would just make a mark on the back. But let's get some hardware out and just kind of mock this up as well. Like I said, usually when I do this I put these things together and take them apart a dozen times at least, just to make sure, you know, all the fabrication bits are correct and everything like that, because the last thing you want to do is have to Swiss cheese your frame and make a mess out of that. So it's best to, you know, take your time with it. Try to put it together as much as you can, you know, a little bit at a time. So build a little, check a little, you know, type of thing. So let's get to it. We'll find the hardware for that and start putting it together. There's the bag over here. I don't know if any of these screws are going to be long enough. Let's see. Let's see what we got. These should do it. And then these little standoffs are supposed to go over top, but these are really tight. Okay, there we go. All right. And then we got enough meat on the screw here to get the nuts on there. Tighten everything down. So let's get this first one in. Okay, we're just going to drop that down in there. Alright, it's in the hole. Got that sticking up there, it's fine. One of these little standoffs, or these spacers. I guess these are really spacers, they're not standoffs. Put that down there. Take the board. The one nice thing about these little plastic mounts or cradles here is they do have a recessed area that the nut fits in. So you can take the nut, snap it in there, holds it in place for you. I'm doing all this with one hand, but it's a little easier with two hands. We'll put that in. Alright, so that one did not snap in, but you get the idea. At least when you're tightening it from the bottom side, you don't have to hold it, because again, it locks it in place. So we're going to just tighten this up a little bit. Snug it up, and need my handle for this. The screwdriver's been a lifesaver for me doing these things. I don't know when I got this, probably like 20-30 years ago, but still have it. The thing works great. Really comes in handy to be able to pop that out and then do what you need to do. That way it's easy to start screws with that as well, so they don't get stripped or anything along the way. You start them by hand. Alright, so that's where the board is, where it's sitting. So try to straighten that up, eyeball it as close as possible. And then we're going to make a little mark right there. Take the Sharpie. I don't know if this one's going to fit down in there. Make a mark. Alright, there we go. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Just use this piece of tape. Yeah, whatever. Just redo that on the tape. It's easier to see. before we strip everything down to drill this, there is one more important part that needs to go on there, and that's the heat sink. So the heat sink is this piece of aluminum here. This is going to transfer the heat from the bridge rectifier down into the chassis here, and the bridge rectifier is used to convert the AC to DC. So the AC off the rails will come into this part, and then this part will distribute out like a 20-ish volt DC output to the rest of the board, which then gets stepped down to the 5 volt, 3.3, all the other voltages needed on the board to operate the components. There we go. I got to play with that to get it to fit on there. I like to open them up a little bit too, so that they slide on there pretty easy. Okay, so after stepping away from this for a while and coming back and looking at it with some fresh eyes, I think I have an idea of what to do here. So I moved this tape back because I really want to fit the smoke unit in here and the control board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow from this Great Northern here the smoke funnel. I really don't like doing this, but I want to keep moving with this till that part comes in, because I think I'm going to be able to get that to work. So we'll just put that one back off to the side. Now this here, let's move this stuff. Alright, I'm probably just going to tape that in there like that. Tape that roughly in place. I want to make sure that it's hard to see, but I want to center this on that slot. I want to center that on the slot right about there, and we're going to tape that in place. And we're going to use that to really try to get that smoke unit positioned properly where we need it. This doesn't need to be perfect. Just really want to use it as a guide. So I'm just going to get it in as best as I can. Oh, that's shifted off to the center a little bit. It's probably good enough. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. I will put slots in the mounting screws, the mounting holes rather. Let's shift that over a little bit. And actually, we can use this to our advantage and offset it a little bit, because I do need to go forward as much as I can. But we got to make sure we have the hole covered by the funnel on the bottom side. Let's see, that should work. Alright, you can kind of see that. Let me hold this up behind it. I can't really see that. There we go. Alright, so we can see through there. Alright, perfect. It's good enough for now. Again, this is shifted a little bit further than the slot. So because I know that it's going to be tough to get that smoke unit mounted exactly where I need to, or on the frame, up against the board, the control board. So we're going to be something like that. Alright. So now, I'm going to drop the smoke unit down on that. It's going to go like this. It's going to go roughly like that. I'm going to put some more tape on there. Alright. Again, this does not have to be pretty. close to where we need it, like really close. And I'm just eyeballing this to see that it's straight. You know what we're going to do too? Just put a little bit more tape on the other side. Ah, that'll be okay. Just go with this. Alright, so these are the mounting holes on the chassis right here. We want to make sure that these are in line as close as possible with the forward mounting holes on the shell. And same on the back. That one's a little hard to see. I can't really move it, but you get the idea. So then with these roughly where they need to be, we can now get an idea of where this is going to go. So we're going to draw a line. Again, I'm eyeballing this whole thing, so bear with me here. Go somewhere's like that. This is roughly where we're going to need to mount these holes. So the idea I have with this now pushes this back a little bit towards the rear motor. This front tab would get cut off, and we should have just enough clearance on this line here once that tab's gone. Now, something I need to look at on the back side is we would use this bracket that comes with the kit. So this bracket lines up with these mounting holes. There's a hole there, there's a hole here, one there. So all three of those line up, and this would elevate it. Alright, so we're going to drop this bracket on here, and the control board on here, kind of mock this up, trying to align the holes in the back here that you can't really see. Then we're going to need to check and make sure we have clearance here, because this is where the tachometer is going to go. Don't know if we have enough clearance on the front motor, which is why at least I typically put it back here. I think the instructions may say so as well. The back side of the motor is a little tough. This is usually the best spot right here, but you got to make sure we have clearance. So there are 2 tack holders to come with the kit. And the tachometer will slide down into these slots here. So this one right here is a little bit skinnier, a little narrower than this one here, and that's actually that's going to set the distance of the tachometer to the flywheel when we put the tape on there that it reads. So I've found, you know, it even says on the instructions, you want to keep this as close to the tachometer as close to the flywheel as possible. They have some measurement in there. I honestly forget what it is. You'd have to look, but this one usually works out well for me. I'm going to take these wires off. We're going to snap this in. Alright, and that snaps in there like that. Alright, so let's take this. I want this as far back as I can get it, which I think is probably going to be right about there. That magnet. Alright, you know what I probably should do? Yeah, I should put a screw in there. Alright, so we've got a good amount of clearance back here. How far back can we get that? I'm really not too fond of having the tachometer right there, but I don't think I have a choice with this one, because I really want to get that smoke unit in and have that mounted properly. And we have to keep enough clearance, maintain enough clearance up in here for those posts to come down. So I'm going to do this. I think we're going to drill this. We're going to set this as far back as we can. And I'm kind of limited to the bracket that I'm using, that the kit comes with. Yeah, I think I can make that work. Should be okay. Alright, and the smoke unit will go in here. Alright. So just to give you a better look here. Alright, had this bracket on there like that. Down on there like that, so we'll take this away and show you what I'm looking to do here. So what I had to do was bend this tab in a little bit on the bracket. What I want to try to do is drill a hole to drop this little nub in. I don't know if you can see that. Let's try to get it right about there. There you go. There's this little nub right here. I'm going to try to get a notch or a hole down in the frame to hold that. So it'll be screwed in the front, and then that'll kind of help lock it in place as well. It's probably not very critical because we will have these two screws in the front, and I don't know if this comes with enough hardware to do what I want to do, so I do have one of these little kits here. There's a whole bunch of 440 screws. It's come in handy a lot. I use these all over the place on these. They fit the holes nicely in the MTH holes, and yeah, they work out okay, so I use them. Alright, let's get this in. Yeah, I want that far back. I might bend this a little bit more. It's a nice little piece of stamped steel here, so it's pretty solid. Probably don't want to bend that back and forth too much. I think I've done that in the past and they will break off. So what I'm looking to do is hang the board over, we'll get as close to the motor as possible, but we need to, we got this cut out here to deal with, so that's why I'm bending that tab in to hopefully catch right around there. Alright, so let's get the Sharpie out. And I'm looking at the back side too. Again, I'm eyeballing this, so you want to center it between these two rails. So that it fits up into the frame, or into the shell rather. Alright. And what I'm going to do is push on that back side, scratch the paint a little bit so I know where to drill. Put that little locking hole in. Okay, and that's right about there. It's right on the edge. So we do want to make sure that there's no clearance problems with when the truck pivots like that with a protrusion through. I don't think it's going to protrude through very much. It's a pretty small nub. Alright, so let's take this apart. We're going to get this bracket mounted, screw this down, and then see how the smoke unit fits. And then we're going to get it as close to this as possible, because that's really where it needs to be. Alright, start stripping it down again. Okay, before I drill these, which I'm going to use a 1/8 drill bit on here, I like to give this a good tap with an awl. It helps keep the bit from walking. Don't need a big hole, just a little dimple. You know, nothing. Don't need a big dent or anything like that. That'll work. I think while we're at it, we're going to tap this back one. It's good enough. All right. Take our screw and see how it fits. A little bit of play in there, which is what I wanted. Okay, let's get that back one. When holding these and drilling them, you have to be careful, because if this bit grabs the metal, this thing's going to want to torque in your hand and give you some pretty good cuts, so just something to be aware of. Right, I'm going to file these down a little bit, get some of those burrs off. On this one I want to be real careful not to scratch this paint. Just going to take it off a little bit. That's good enough. I don't want to go down too far. It's going to really scratch up the frame there. This one's not bad. Just try to knock off some of those edges. This will all be under the bracket and the screws anyway, but alright. Alright. Looks good. Just get some of that out of there. Looks good. Alright, that's good. I'm going to go with that. Oh, that little piece right there is bothering me. I know if I try too hard, it's going to go right in my finger, right? Alright. Alright, I'm done this time. Let's get it back up on the bench. Okay, let's see how the bracket fits now. Alright, so I'm going to lock this nub in this back hole here. See, it's kind of locked in there. Trying to wiggle it around, it's staying. So now, there we go, perfect. So, holes align, we'll get it screwed down. I'm going to have to break out my 440s here. I need to order some more of these. Looks like that one's a little bit too long, but it'll work. I don't have to worry about any interference there in that area. I don't have many shorter ones. It's a little crooked, but that's okay. It'll be alright. Yeah, maybe it's not bad. Okay. I'll go with it. Now Now, I don't know if I've ever set a board back this far towards the rear motor like that, so we're going to see how this works out. Fingers crossed it's okay. Alright, cool. So that's the bracket. And as you can hopefully kind of see, that little nub from the bracket is right in there. So that bracket's locked in pretty good. It was locked in by these two anyway, but that takes any play out of it, and overall it's pretty straight. Yeah, works out. Worked out okay. Alright. Gets us in the ballpark there. Pretty cool. Let's hit this with some air. And put those trucks on once again in the tank. See what kind of issues we may run into with all of this. See if there's any clearance issues or anything. I think we'll be okay. And we only have the one screw in there. That's why it's pivoting. We'll get another one down in there. Actually, yeah, I'll leave that off for now. Let's get the trucks on. Okay guys, so if you made it this far in the video, you've probably seen me take this apart and put it back together at least a dozen times or so. I figured we'd speed this up a little bit, and I'll just talk you through what I'm doing here. And we're starting to put the trucks back on, and we'll put the fuel tank / speaker housing back on. And what I'm doing here is just getting set up to figure out how we're going to mount the smoke unit now. So we'll put all the major components back on, get everything where we think it needs to be, and then I'm going to take the smoke unit in there that's temporarily held in with tape, and I'm going to glue down the funnel. Put a little bit of hot glue on there, get it aligned first. Then I'll put the smoke unit on top of it. Make sure that it's seated inside of the funnel. There's a little brass cup on the top of the smoke unit. You want to make sure that that's seated down into the recessed area of the black funnel. And then I put some hot glue on that as well, just to temporarily hold that in place. And that'll help with trying to figure out where it's going to sit and get mounted to on the chassis. So right here I'm cutting the tab off the one end of the board mount, and that's so we have clearance up against the smoke unit once that's installed. The line on the blue tape represents the end of where that board mount needs to sit. So that was my guideline as far as setting up the board mount and screwing into the chassis. And then the smoke unit will sit right on the edge of that board mount. Just kind of mocking it up here with some tape, see how things fit. And then I'll put some lines around the bottom of the post there, and that's going to help guide me as far as how to, where to drill the mounting holes. So once again, we'll take it all apart. Okay, I didn't show the drill out of this. It was the same process as before. Dimple the frame to get a good start for the drill bit. And I just put the one mounting screw in for now. Again, just build a little, test a little here. Make sure that everything fits. Checking the clearance in the inside there between the smoke unit brass piece there and the black funnel. And then get the second hole drilled. Do a test fit. Getting some washers out to help just ensure that I have a good clearance fit between the brass cup of the smoke unit and the black funnel. So I can adjust that with the washers as needed. It's just setting the height of the smoke unit up against the shell. So when I put that on, I'm trying to make sure that the shell's not hanging up and rocking on the smoke unit. You know, that it's not too high, and just go back and forth with it to make sure that it's seated. And the smoke unit and the black funnel come together nicely. Now put the board bracket back in. And get ready to drop in the test board. Put the heatsink back on and just take a look at everything. So I had to do some tweaks to the mounting bracket for the PS3 control board. If you can kind of see that. I had to angle this down a little bit so that there's some clearance up in here between the capacitor and the bottom of the smoke unit right there, and also on the side over here, again between the cap and the smoke unit. So even with it vibrating around, if it were to vibrate around, there's enough clearance up and down, side to side. Actually, it really doesn't go side to side. It's pretty tight in there, so really shouldn't bounce around too much. I'm not too concerned with that. So overall, I think that looks pretty good. Another important thing here, I guess, just to mention is, again, this is directly under the smoke unit, and I know we all know not to overfill these guys here. In the event that did happen, there is a gasket in here, but if that were rotted out and some were to spill down over the edge, the board's angled down going that way, so yeah, I'm not concerned with any of that. I try my best not to overfill these, as we all do, but sometimes accidents happen, right? But I will put a little bit of Mylar tape, or Kapton tape rather, over top of this, just in case some spills out. It'll hit the tape and just roll down. So I think we're going to be pretty good with that. So let's move on and put the fuel tank and the speaker back in. But that's where we're at. Again, I'm happy with the way this turned out. I was able to fit the smoke unit in. The bracket is pretty solid on there. Smoke unit looks good. Overall, I think it looks pretty good. But you will get this bracket in your kit. It's a little hard to see here, but I did have to bend it and modify it a little bit. But we got it in there. Looks pretty clean too. Again, I'm really happy I did not have to cut the speaker hole out here, but this one did present its own handful of challenges, mainly getting that smoke unit in and getting it to fit under the shell in the right location. So again, pretty happy with this. So let's move on to the next step. Okay, I tried to set up a better camera angle here for the wiring. It's a little easier for me now. It's kind of out of my way, but probably just going to let the camera run, not talk too much here, and let's get to it.